Hello, and welcome to the CDO Magazine interview series. I am Sue Pittacora with Wavicle Data Solutions, and I'm delighted to be joined here today by Sarang Bapat, the Data Governance Director at Mitsubishi Electric Trane US, otherwise known as METIS. Welcome, Sarang.
Thank you, Sue.
A lot of issues or a lot of challenges around compliance of data and so forth. How do you think about the compliance in your industry today, and what are you doing there?
I mean, if you think about the financial services and a regulatory domain, usually whenever I have kind of attended the reg exams or provided a lot of evidence for the Fed or the OCC, it's usually, I'll give you an example from the anti-money laundering space that I have been working with in the past. And one of the big things is they want to know, how did you come to assess your risk in the first place? What are the drivers of your risk and risk appetite? So in anti-money laundering domains, the simple things like geography of the customer. Is the customer domestic or international matters a lot? Because depending upon your bank accounts abroad and the whole chain of where money is coming from, it's considered pretty risky out of the bat if your business is all over the world, right? You're pretty familiar with that with McDonald's, right? If your guys are all over the world, so that makes it very risky. Other one is, what type of products are you using? If it is basic checking and savings account, not that bad. But if you're talking about wire transfers, if you're talking about stored value cards, if you're talking about money orders, I mean, those are the perfect vehicle for people to launder money. And if you have much bigger portfolio of those, guess what? The risk assessment is going to be a lot more rigorous on that.
Right.
Same thing with type of customer. Is it personal or commercial? If you have a lot of entities that do business with you, which are shell companies, which are not, that's not the right thing for the regulators if there is no visibility around them. So then if you say these are the elements that we drove our risk engine around, they're like, so now tell me, where is this data coming from? From your systems, right? So then where is data coming from and where is it going? Who owns it when issues come up, right? And then how is that lineage and how good a quality of that data is and how do you know? So all of these questions really are talking about data lineage, talking about where data is coming from and where it is going. Who is responsible for it is the data stewardship. If you have already set that up, it's a very clear delineation to say, here is our finance data model, here are all the data stewards. He is responsible for credit part of the business. He's responsible for compliance. He's responsible for this particular thing. So it's a very easy explanation and a very readily available information you can let regulators know, which they like. They're like, okay, so you have thought about all of that. And same thing with quality lineage, stewardship, and then what kind of controls you have put in place. That's another question regulators are going to ask. Where are those controls? Which is part of the data governance. So with the regulatory landscape, all of these things become really manageable. Even if there are holes, it is manageable because you're doing things in a predictable way. If you have a well thought out data governance strategy, would you miss a thing or two based on their observation? Maybe there might be some observations, but you already have the framework. There might be a tweaking to that existing framework that might be required. But that's why data governance program would come in very handy in that instance.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So we hear about Gen AI every day. It's the hottest topic, right? What do you think the role of AI and data governance at Metis is? How is that coming together?
So we are at the very infancy of our journey, I would say, because like everybody, I mean, it's everybody's figuring out what this thing is, right? I mean, in true senses, like we don't know how it would help or what might be potential use cases and things like that. But I would say this, this is like a question where a lot of people say, if you ask the question in a different analogy to say, do you invest in mutual funds? And people say, no, I don't do that. It's like, so do you have a 401k? Yes, I do. Then you are you're already investing through that into mutual funds. You just don't know it, right? So if I'm using my data governance tools today, already have an AI component built into it. So I have adaptive rules that are running that is learning my data behind the scenes. And I get observations to say, hey, out of all that, I found 4 different shapes for your zip code, meaning a format. Like it's a 5-digit zip, sometimes it's 5-9, sometimes it's 5 and 4 together. We don't know, like the tool or the machine observed that there are 4 different types of zip codes that data I'm learning and noticing. Is that right? Or behind the scenes it is saying I'm finding this field has all kinds of duplicates. I don't know what the field is, but the machine is learning that that field has ton of duplicates, and it is doing all that based on its learnings. That data, we are running rules every week, so after 8 or 9 of those runs, the 10th run, it starts to show you those behavior patterns because now it has learned enough about your data and it's exposing those to you. Apart from the actual physical custom rules that you are writing and know about. But for our data stewards, we always say, look at your rules that you created, but at the same time, look at all what machine found, something for you to look at, which is otherwise very difficult for a human to do sometimes, right? Data is large, machine is learning and making all kinds of connections behind the scenes. Not necessarily means all of that is right and ripe for action, but something to consider and worth looking into. So I would say everybody's probably ecosystem has AI built into it. They just don't know it sometimes.
That's a great point. That's a great point. Okay, so then building on that thing, right? When we talk about AI, we all know, garbage in, garbage out. It's the same with AI. How do you support data quality, and how does that fit into your thinking with data governance, Sarang?
Yeah, so um, I would say, I mean, obviously, we hear this term a lot, right? It's what are our LLMs doing? A lot of vendors would tell you, oh, this is the RAG technology. It's a retrieval augmented generation that we are doing. It's like, guess what? If the retrieval is not foundationally accurate, if you're generating based on that retrieval, you're augmenting more data. I think you're kind of pulling inaccurate information because data wasn't good and augmenting that inaccurate data even more to do create something which is not going to be a good model or LLM in for use, right? So that data quality is vital. I mean, any AI initiative that they're doing some, but when you're talking about like running something through your AI engine and this is going to help your advisors, for example, it is showing them intelligent information about your customer, maybe the next best product based on their history, whatever. The most important thing I always kind of talk to my leaders about also who are working on AI and vendors is we need to know what underlying data elements we are using. And we absolutely need a quality metric on that at all times, kind of monitoring the quality of that, making sure that quality is right. If you're using the third party data and bringing that in, even working with legal on making sure when we get that information, A, I have the complete glossary for your data that you are landing. B, I can tell whether all of that data is actually filled with the right fill rates and all that. Because all of this is becoming a part of our ecosystem on top of which we are building digital products and more intelligent algorithms using AI, assuming that the foundational data is accurate, right?
Right.
So that's where it is more like you definitely need to open the hood and see what are the 3 or 4 key things that is going to use in your RAG algorithm. What is it going to augment data with? It's like, oh, these are the manuals, and our agents were going and looking. I want to open that up and read that. It's like, do we have all the information in those manuals? Do we know they are updated? It's not pulling the old ones. Is it filtered on something? So that's pretty important, because if I show something to say whether some information is right or not, it's like, sorry, that actually was deactivated, but RAG didn't pick that up because the flag wasn't there. So it's a data quality problem. The product was deactivated, the flag didn't get set, right? And that caused all the way issues because algorithm is not going to notice that, right? The assumption is that the base data is accurate.
Right. So it sounds like you do a bit of prioritizing of your data.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Sarang, thank you so much. It was such a pleasure to meet with you today. Great insights. And to the rest of everyone, please visit cdomagazine.tech for additional interviews. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sue.